Hello, welcome to this new video. My name is Martina Vincenzi and I am the founder of the VIP Flight Attendant Academy Private Jet Coach. Today we're going to talk flight attendant versus cabin crew. This is probably the topic that creates the most confusion among the aviators all over the world, and in fact it can be a little bit tricky, so I will try to explain and hopefully clarify a little bit. So when I say cabin crew, I normally refer to a person who works in the airline as a cabin crew and who holds a cabin crew license. The cabin crew, also called the cabin crew attestation, so CCL cabin crew license or CCA cabin crew attestation is exactly the same thing. So the cabin crew attestation is normally a document which is issued by the aviation authority after the person has undertaken a training and successfully passed an exam to check on their knowledge. So you have to undertake a training in order to receive the cabin crew license and also to be successful to an exam, normally in front of the authorities or let's say organized by somebody who has been delegated by the authorities and who has the power to give you this exam. Once you have achieved your cabin crew license, you also have to maintain the cabin crew license by having a recurrent training on a regular basis regarding the emergency procedures, as well as firefighting, dangerous good, wet drills, CPR, first aid, CRM, etc., etc. So you have to take this recurrent training, normally on a yearly basis for some topics. For some other topics, is the time span is a little bit longer. However, you have to take this examination on a regular basis, and let's say your cabin crew license is going to be confirmed if you are successful in this training. Otherwise, you have to take like a reparation training, so you will be grounded for some time to take again some extra training, take the examination again until is confirmed. So basically, without a cabin crew license, you cannot fly as a cabin crew in the airline. The situation is very different when we're talking about a private jet. So the law says that if an aircraft is below 20 seats, there is no need to have on board somebody for safety, security, and first aid. So that means somebody with a cabin crew license. If this person is present in the cabin, it is considered to be there for comfort and not for that kind of duties. Now, the limit of the seats on board of the aircraft, it is not the only one, okay? There are some other, let's say, ingredients that makes an aircraft in need of a cabin crew or not in need of a cabin crew. Some of these ingredients are related to the tonnage of the jet, of the aircraft, or, for example, also the distance between the threshold of the door and the ground that determines if you need slides, and in case you need slides, you also might need cabin crew to operate the slides, to arm and disarm the slides. But let's say the easiest one to remember is the seat number on board. So a private jet will always have less than 20 seats, so up to 19 seats. In my experience, the smallest private jet I have seen, it was a 4-seat private jet, and the biggest one that I have seen is 19 seats. So regardless of the type of the aircraft, it can be, an Airbus A320, 319, it can be a Boeing 747, it could be anything. But if it has less than 20 seats, then it's a private jet, okay? So if you are a flight attendant on board a private jet, your role is very different compared a cabin crew, okay? Basically, I would say the main difference can be summarized in the authority that you have in the cabin. If you are a cabin crew, you have a lot of authority, right? You can tell people what to do, you can give orders, basically. When you are on a private jet, because you are not a cabin crew, but you are a flight attendant, because of the number of seats and some other ingredients that makes that aircraft a private jet, you have less authority. In particular, you are not allowed to operate the doors, for example. So we do not open and close doors. Or we are not allowed to open and close doors. Then maybe on a daily basis, on the daily routine, the reality can be different. However, we are not allowed to operate doors. We are not allowed to give a safety briefing, for example. So if there is a video, for example, you play the video. Otherwise, this is a captain or a captain responsibility to give to the passenger a safety briefing before departure. The captain can delegate it to the first officer, definitely yes, but they will be the one eventually giving the briefing, not the flight attendant. And you are not allowed to perform any PA, any announcement in the cabin. Also because you do not have an interphone in order to do that. So that's actually the natural consequence. So there are, let's say, two big differences in between the cabin crew and the flight attendant, as you can see. However, in many, the reality of everyday's business can be slightly different, and I would like to describe the two biggest business aviation industry in the world, which is the American and the European, and just to give you some hints of how do they work. For example, in America, if you fly as a VIP flight attendant on board a private jet, you still need to take a training regarding the emergency procedures, firefighting, dangerous good, CPR, etc., etc. The initial training of this kind is actually on the flight attendant expenses, and it's around $5,000. So in order for you to be even considered for the position of a VIP flight attendant, they normally prefer you to have undertaken already this training, which has the validity of 1 year. So any other recurrent training following the first one will be then paid by the company. But you have to have the first one in order to be considered. On the other way around, you do not need to have a medical certificate to operate as a flight attendant. So if you are fit to fly or not fit to fly, you do not need to have a medical a doctor that certifies that for you. You can go and fly and no problem. In Europe, you do not need to have such a training to be considered for the position of a VIP flight attendant. You can have different backgrounds. You can come from the airline, you can come from, for example, a private yacht, you can come from a private mansion, working as a butler, you can come from a starred restaurant or a luxury resort in the Maldives. That doesn't really matter. If they choose you as a VIP flight attendant for the position of a VIP flight attendant, then the company, 99% of the time, 99% of the companies in Europe will provide you with the training of emergency procedure, firefighting, dangerous good, and so on and so forth. This training, it's a gift, okay? The company, it is not required by the law to provide you this training. However, it is nice to know that, from the company point of view, it's very nice to know that the people who are flying the aircraft do actually know what they're doing and are able to comply with certain, unusual or even emergency situations. So that's the reason why they provide you the training. But as I say, this is not a legal requirement, okay? It is something that the company does for you as a sort of a gift. You also have to take some recurrent trainings on a yearly basis most of the time, but depending on the topic, it might be even the time span can be even longer. But this recurrent training, it's informative and it's not valuative, okay? It's just to refresh your knowledge, but it's not like if you do not pass the recurrent training, you are not welcome on board, okay? If that makes sense. Also in Europe, it is highly appreciated that you have a medical certificate that states that you are fit to fly. This medical certificate must be issued by specific doctors that has an agreement with the aviation authorities, so they know what they have to look into you when it comes to diseases or physical conditions for you to be fit to fly, for you to be able to do this job. Very often this medical certificate is on the flight attendant expenses, but it is also, I have seen companies paying that for you. For sure, if you fly as a freelance, it's on your expenses. So it is highly appreciated that you have this medical certificate, which has the duration, the validity of 5 years. So you have to undertake this eventually once every 5 years. Or after hospitalization or big events like childbirth or maybe an operation, a surgery of whatever kind that had included anesthesia, full anesthesia for you. So then you have to take again the medical check to state that you are fit to fly. So these are the differences between, or the main differences between the two big industry, the private jet industry in the world. And I hope that now it is a little bit clearer, the difference between a flight attendant and a cabin crew. So in conclusion, if you are a cabin crew, you also can be a flight attendant. But if you are a flight attendant, you cannot be a cabin crew. You cannot even be called a cabin crew because to fly on a private jet, it is not mandatory that you have that you hold a cabin crew license or a cabin crew attestation. Nevertheless, people who are coming from experience in aviation, in commercial aviation, are normally the preferred candidates because they know already how to deal with the aircraft, the problematics that you can have on board an aircraft, and how to manage them. Last but not least, a flight attendant, it is not a necessarily crew member. What does that mean? It means that in the general declaration, so in the official documents that is presented to the authorities in order to perform a flight, both at departure as well as destination, in this document it is stated all the details of the occupants of the aircraft, so the crew members, their role, and also the passengers with their passport number, for example, date of birth, and also some other information about the company, about the aircraft, and so on and so forth. So in the general declaration, in this document, very often the flight attendant belongs to the second part of the document. So he or she falls under the passenger list, okay? Because we are a crew member, which is not mandatory to be there. Okay. Now, I don't want you to get scared of this. This is just how the law imposes you to write this document. Okay, it is not. Then let's say the reality is different. This is just on paper for some documents that needs to be presented to the authority. Why is that so? Because you are a flight attendant and you are not a cabin crew, and you are not required to hold a cabin crew license. So therefore you cannot fall under the crew list, okay? But you have to be present somewhere. So it is easy to just put you in between the passengers list. But then when you are on board, and also the way you are treated by the company, you are treated as a cabin crew, okay? You are treated as a crew member, actually, not a cabin crew, sorry. You are treated as a crew member, and they take care of you as a crew member. Now, this is just, you know, the cherry on top of the cake. There are many other differences between flight attendant and cabin crew, but I do not want to take this video too long, so eventually I will discuss about them in the future. This is just the main difference that hopefully can help you understand the differences between a flight attendant and a cabin crew. That's all for today. I hope that this was helpful. As always, if you have any questions regarding the private jet industry and the flight attendant life, feel free to reach out to me. I send you baci baci, and I see you on the next video.